the flow is going to go probably through Malama Marketplace, across 130, and then go on down towards Kai and break that road on 2 or 3 places, which means that both shores and beaches will be virtually completely isolated. Now, in shores and beaches, we all rely on the water supplies that are there, but they need electricity to operate the pumps. Can the standby generators been put in place so to keep at least the water supply flowing if we lose everything else?
Yes, water supply is another critical infrastructure need that we've identified. We are working with the private water companies as well as the county water department, which operates a well site nearby to the same area as well. In addition, we are meeting with HELCO again tomorrow to discuss the options and solutions with regionalizing power. If an area is cut off, one is how do they protect their poles and infrastructure so that we don't lose those? And then how do you provide power in a section of the island that might become isolated using what generation is currently available there? When I say that, it's like with geothermal. It's already in the community generating power. How can we utilize that resource to make sure the community has power regardless of what happens? So it's identifying solutions, because to maintain security, electricity is one of those critical elements with lighting at night, as well as, again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but a large portion of Puna relies on power just for water needs, not just for your municipal water systems or your private water systems with, let's say, Hawaiian Shores, Hawaiian Beaches, but those that are on catchment, you need power to operate your water. So we are very aware of that, and water, power, security, safety, transportation, fuel, and commodities are all on the priorities to make sure we have a system in place to address those needs.
Because I hear this talk about, oh, well, we'll just open up railroad or we'll open up beach road. But if the lava keeps going, that's pointless. Right?
Yes. We expect that as the flow continues toward the ocean, the gradient, the slope of the land gets more shallow. We would expect the flow to widen out and slow down. So
but it would still cross the road.
It would still,
like the chicken.
If the flow continues to go, it will reach the ocean.
All right. So then a suggestion, because if we're all isolated, there's some basic things we're going to need. You know, and I would suggest, knowing that the likelihood is this is going to keep going, I don't know why we wouldn't start warehousing things like gasoline, propane, rice, staples. Have them here, because it's going to be, we can't bring them in by boat. Waiiki Harbor is shallow, you know, one little fishing boat at a time. So a practical thing to do is say, whoa, we better start storing it now, you know, not wait until it's too late. Okay?
No, thank you.
What I was wondering is, I guess in the last few weeks that we've been monitoring this flow, if at all it's worth talking about, how much in volume and rate is Pu'o actually pushing lava, and how often is that changing that rate? That is.
Well, as I mentioned a few times, it's a difficult measurement to make, so we don't do it routinely. It depends on sort of the configuration of the flow and whether we have, for example, over the last couple of years, we've been able to get satellite DEMs off a German satellite, a digital elevation model. And so we can, when the satellite comes over, it'll scan the flow field and give us topography, and then if it comes back over in a couple of months, we'd scan it again, and we compute the difference, which will tell us the additional volume that the eruption put on the ground, and we can figure out what the eruption rate is.
And what are the numbers on that? Do you guys have any numbers?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. Okay. So after this period where we got all these numbers, the numbers came out to something like 150 to 250 cubic meters per day. This is a number. The overall average for Kilauea is about 300 to 500. And I know I don't expect these numbers to mean a whole lot, but you know, it's hard to imagine cubic meters per day. Okay. But the average is about 300 to 500 cubic meters per day. In the last couple of years prior to June 27th, it was something like 150 to 250. Yeah. So it was lower. Also, the gas emissions from Pahoa were lower, although the gas emission story is kind of screwed up by the Summit vent, which is also degassing a great deal of SO2. And normally, before the summit opened up, we could use sulfur dioxide emissions as a proxy for eruption rate as well, and sort of match them together. But what we know now is that the June 27th flow both apparently increased the eruption rate, as Tim said, to back up to the 300 to 500 range, and also the emissions have been up, although they've been decreasing slowly. So our best guess is that the eruption rate has resumed what the long-term average is, 300 to 500 cubic meters per day. And that's more than it has been in the last couple of years.
To your knowledge, has the Department of Education made any plans at all for what would happen to the school children if the school had to close? If they would be bused to other schools, what other schools have room to take them, where the buses would come from, all of those logistics. Do you have any idea if, the Department of Education has a viable plan? And if so, would you share it with us?
I haven't seen their plan per se for this particular scenario, but we've asked them to look at what could play out as far as where the flow is at, how that would affect not only the Pahoa school, but the other schools as well as the bus routes, and how the children could be, one is on either side of the flow. Scenarios we've asked them to look at is how would they consider redistributing the student body population as well as addressing the need for faculty, whether that means shifting students to other campuses or other schools. And that's not just the DOE schools. We've been meeting with the charter schools out at Haas schools today, and they've also looked within their plans as how they might shift student population to other campuses within the charter school system. So those are all being worked on by those agencies, and we've asked them to share their plans with us so that we can make that public as soon as possible.
In the recent last couple of weeks, I've definitely been feeling it more and more, and I'm wondering what the best source of information is for the airflow patterns, and if there's particulate counters and any sort of things that are kind of monitoring the air in various districts and various communities, because I have friends who've since sealed their house, installed HEPA filters and air conditioning because A, they could, and B, they needed to. 2 weeks ago, they were terrified. They couldn't breathe at night because the thermal inversion dropped the smoke right on top of them. So what is the best source for information for this? How can we monitor and map this airflow? We've got a volcano, we've got a geothermal plant that, we don't know what it's doing half the time. It'd be really nice if we had solid information in various locations in the Puna district, and I'm wondering where I can find any of that kind of information.
I'll get that information for you and make it available.
We own JB Water Hauling, and I listened to you guys about infrastructure and use for water. Why did you guys not come to us and ask us for help to use our trucks from the last storm? And now, since we have this happening, you guys could actually get a hold of us and station our trucks with the potable water for all these people to use if they get blocked off, instead of worrying about who can bring them their water. So I'm just sharing with you guys that we are available. I've talked to all the other haulers, and we are out there for you guys. So please use us.
Thank you.
That's the end of the questions.